So the example I'm going to be using for management is Simon Windrum, who is a non-elite coach. And the reason I'm using this example is that it's very important in non-elite that all the performers know where the match will be taking place and when it's going to start. They'll need to know which facility has been booked for them to play. It will be important for the manager to ensure that the equipment is ready for the team and that the session is planned and the arrangements have already been made. It's more important in non-elite as there's not always other members of staff who are going to be booking facilities for the manager, and he'll have to do it himself. Whereas in elite sport, there's often fitness coaches and other backroom staff which jobs are mainly to be running the sessions, so the manager wouldn't have to worry about that. The second skill I'm going to be talking about is communication. This is a very important skill which is required when coaching participants. So it's important that there's an exchange of information going from the coach to the performers, as the performers won't know what to do necessarily if they're not told verbally from the coach. So the language used is simple and free from complex and technical language. Must be appropriate, and a coach should check for the understanding and make sure that the players actually know what they're talking about. So there's different types of communication. So another example could be physical communication. So when on a pitch, the coach could be explaining tactics from one side of the pitch to the other using hand gestures. And the athletes will actually read positive and negative body language and will perform differently from what they see from the coach. The example I'm going to be using for communication is Gareth Southgate. So Gareth is a elite coach for the England football team, and it's important that he communicates with his team well, as quite often during the matches they will need to be working on different tactics and different formations. So the way that he can communicate this is with hand gestures physically or verbally from the sidelines. If the players understand him well, then they're likely to understand what he means and do as he says, and therefore hopefully get a better result than what we'd do if he didn't understand what he was trying to tell them. However, it's just as important in non-elite sport. So during a non-elite football match, for example, a performer being told that they need to move positions or play differently in order to get a better result for their team, they might not understand certain bits of information that they're being given, so it might not work as well. So if they were told during a training session rather than during a match, they might be able to understand more, where they might be able to be shown an example of what is expected of them rather than to be doing it on the spot when they don't really know what they're doing, as they're still learning the game. The third skill I'm going to be talking about is teaching. So one of the key processes of teaching is the understanding of how people learn. So drills and practices need to be designed in a way that allows participants to progress at an appropriate pace. As a rule of good practice, the following model is useful when teaching skills. Introduce and explain the technique. Demonstrate the technique. Practice, so allow performers to experience the technique. Observe and analyse the participants, and identify and correct errors. It's vital that learning is achieved in simple, short and logical steps. The most valuable knowledge that a coach can gain is through learned experience, judging for themselves and from their performers what is effective and what is not. Coaching is a continuous process which lends itself to self-reflection and evaluation. Since the knowledge and skills required to be a successful coach are constantly changing and developing within the sport, it is unlikely that coaches will ever reach the point where they will know all that there is to know. So my example for teaching